trying really hard tonight to get my stuff together. I've been on PC most of the day. There's legitimately no excuse for why I'm late, except, no, Dell, I'm not answering that survey either because you did not help me out with my issue. It's been a day, y'all. Give me just a moment. Gonna put the word out so that we can get this fired up. There's a lot of topics that we're definitely gonna touch upon tonight, but we have to get started with, since it is women's, I don't even understand what to call this. It feels weird saying Women's History Month, but I guess that's what it is, kind of like an appreciation of women's accomplishments, which, in the face of so much bullshit that women are going through, especially in southern states right now, with our rights to choose coming under fire, with people literally still wanting to take our right to vote away, especially for black women, it has been some bullshit, y'all. So when I say that spending my time calling out stunts like this is exhausting, I mean that. Now, if you don't know who this young lady is, because I'm not on TikTok the way some people are. I sometimes see like retweets of other people's TikTok, so I had a vague idea who she was. I'm not a fan. I'm gonna keep it 100. I'm not a fan of anybody that like puts out personal information in the ways of, I'm just doxing in the right way to expose people, because they're already exposing themselves being bigots. And she made her name off of the TikTok thing of taking something somebody said that was offensive and then finding out where they work and putting it out there, kind of like a truth sleuth type person. And no, not like the YouTuber Truth Sleuth, who is a whole nother being, that another person I don't really care for all that much, but I don't hate. The problem with this young lady, and I don't know if you can see it clear, so I'm going to interact and kind of scroll down a bit so you can see the message on her shirt, which her caption, scrolled up too much. Happy Women's History Month. And then she wears a shirt that says, stolen black breast milk built this nation. I think it says liquid gold for the brand. I could look up the brand. I honestly don't care, because I don't think a black person would come up with a shirt that trivializes generational trauma. I would at least hope not. Most of our shirts tend to be about our culture in positive ways, because uplifting our communities is what we need to survive. Morally speaking, it has been rough to exist as a black person in this country. So when I say to somebody, politely as I can, that this ain't fucking it, I mean it. This ain't it. What was the point of this? You're a white woman. This is international, well, historical Women's Month. So you did not have to highlight my generational trauma for this. But you knew this would get you clicks and views. You knew this would get you engagement. And I know it looks like I gave her the heart. I did not. That was a like for a friend who responded to her asinine tweet. Because a lot of people, both black, white, she legitimately, this was for Portia, she legitimately had a whole bunch of us come together and call her nonsense out. And exactly, G. Feldman, welcome to the chat. And the problem with her attitude and then her responses, because I need you to see how arrogant she was. Somebody said this wasn't it, or what was it? She had like a really gross response to this, where she literally showed enslaved women nursemaiding white babies. Like, we know you know our painful history. We know you know that. What we are asking you to do is not to exploit that for freaking views. And it was like, I'm just going to do me. I'm an ally. And yeah, she goes, a black woman designed this, and I don't buy it. Anybody can say they're black online, and no. This was her response. Good evening, respect. This was her response to Oh Honey No. Yes, yes, yes. Showing black slaves, people who I have direct ties to, nursemaiding white babies. And I like to remind you that her shirt said, stolen breast milk created this nation. And it's like, we've been pushing for actual history for years now, and we're feeling a pushback. People crying CRT whenever we talk about the realities of how this country was founded. People who don't want to look the ugly in the eye. And we are mocked by people who want to utilize our pain to platform themselves, get those clicks and views, and it's very fucking frustrating. Because I don't want to stop actual people who care about the situation, who care about the historical context of this situation, from speaking up about our pain. But I'm fucking sick of the I'm going to utilize your pain to take a selfie style culture that some of these young people have taken with us. And it's tiring. We are coming out of a 4-year funk. We are trying to rebuild, build back better, and we keep hitting a wall of stupidity that I just cannot fathom why. Why it's so lucrative to be so ignorant. Why clout chasing seems to be a thing. I talked about it earlier. I did a video on my YouTube about a company that literally tanked itself because the owner of said company wanted to clout chase and look more famous than he was. And he took a good idea and he ran it into the ground. And on a personal level, I'm upset because the people that I loved in that company, that I watched and supported, are now out of work. This clout chasing crackhead syndrome, as I like to call it, is exhausting. And she does. And then you have white women in her chat, which really set me off, which was why I decided to tape that quick Bonnet short this morning, saying, well, as a white woman, how am I supposed to speak up for black women then? And I have a Native American husband, and I had this conversation again with Greg. I know he gets tired of it, but he loves me, and I'm so glad that he's patient. If you are in a multi-ethnic relationship, and this is leaning heavily towards the white person, because a lot of us black people don't do that. It's not like our relationships are badge of honor. It's who we fell in love with. I can't speak for all black women, but it makes me uncomfortable to make things about my partner's skin color. It just always felt weird, and I don't want it done to me. And we had the conversation yet again, that when he's relaying stuff, what do you know about being a black person? Nothing. How could you weigh in on black life better than me? I can't. And it's not that I want him to feel afraid to amplify black voices or speak on issues that he semi understands, but he has always made it clear that he knows he could never understand what I go through better than me. He could never talk over me, and he would never use our relationship to get himself out of some stuff, because I see that way too much. And I am begging you tonight, those of you in multi-ethnic relationships, to stop using your partner as a get out of racism or bigotry free card, because it's not it. It puts a lot of pressure on us who are already facing societal othering to have to deal with a partner who is so fucking self-righteous, so in their savior type feelings, that they don't even think about how that makes us feel. Are you in this relationship with us because you love us? Or are you in this relationship with us because it's a fetish? Because you can then turn it around and say, look, I'm not racist. I'm dating this type of person. It's insidious. I see it all the time with family members who happen to not be black, but of color in other ways, like my Asian cousins especially. They get dated by white people, and they're shocked, especially by my Filipino cousins, on how we run our houses. We don't play that whole meek and docile female wife bull crap for the most part. There might be some that do that, but if you ever had an old Filipino auntie and you try them in their house, you will get cussed the fuck out. You will get backed also. And you might get stabbed depending on the level, because I've had some aunties that they cross that cut a bitch level. They don't care. So I just want y'all to be mindful if you are in multi-ethnic relationships. And come to find out, little Miss Doxer, to get back to why I was so upset in the first place, Miss, I'm going to pause with a shirt that reminds me of my generational pain. She got married on plantation in 2017. It didn't take much to dig up her reality, her true colors. And for somebody who claims to be an ally, and I said that to famous people. That's why I'm not a stan of a lot of famous people. I've got like maybe 4 that I willingly follow. Rita actually followed me back, which is pretty cool. But the reason why I don't stand certain people is because white people seem to have this whole romanticism of plantations. And when I used to pass them when I lived in the South, I always had a sense of sadness. Because as beautifully structured as some of those big houses were, as fancy as they might have been for the white people who resided in them and were served by my ancestors, I think about the horrors that went on. I think about the families that were literally forcefully created and then torn apart, sold like commodities, dehumanized on a regular basis. And that is the reality of slavery. And that is why when we say, please don't minimize our pain to a fucking slogan during Women's History Month, understand the weight of what you're doing. Don't just do it to fucking score likes on Twitter. It's sickening how fucked up clout-seeking culture has become to where we can't even trust the people that seem like they're on our side anymore, because it always seems like they're trying to be louder than the message itself. There was no reason for you to wear that shirt. If you wanted to speak honestly about what women has gone through in this country, your demographic has had plenty of issues too. You could have easily made women's history about how abortions had to go underground. I watched a fascinating thing on the Jane Project that nearly got arrested right before Roe v. Wade dropped. But they were literally a group that helped women get safer abortions because abortions were illegal in a lot of this country. The Jane Project was amazing. That was something you, Miss Melanin Deficient, could have highlighted for Women's History Month, but you chose violence by choosing my ancestral pain. I don't want to have to call out TikTokers. I normally don't try not to care about TikTokers outside the random videos sometimes Axiom shows me to get a giggle. It's exhausting dealing with white people who really have it in their head that they can speak on these issues better than the people who are telling you, this is our pain. I don't want to see it on a t-shirt. I don't want you telling me that you deserve to amplify my ancestral pain more than I'm telling you to tone that shit down because it's hurtful. Tone that shit down because it's not doing what you think it's doing. But I guess because you get a bunch of likes and clicks and views and engagement, that's more important to you. You're not an ally. And I will say it again like I said it at the end of that video. If you're telling me you're an ally and I'm not saying that shit to you, you're not one. It really is that simple. And it would be like that. It would be like me telling somebody LGBT, oh, I'm your ally, which I would never fucking do. It's not my place. It is legitimately not my place to infiltrate a group that I have no proper place in and tell them I'm their ally. You have to earn that shit. And that is something somebody tells you. That is not something you tell people. And it just exhausts me that I have to keep saying this to grown people. This is not a child. This is not a teenager on TikTok. You are a full-grown ass woman being told by black women. I've seen several black faces. I've seen several white faces. And thank you, sister girls, for coming together to try to collect this heifer. Because she did not want to listen. And she doubled down with those slave pictures. And that was when I was like, no. I'm adding this to tonight's segment because it was a step too far. As a history nerd, as somebody who lives this shit, loves this shit, breathes it. I understand the importance of getting true history out there, but when you do it in a way that is so clearly pandering to get your self-engagement, to get yourself likes and follows, I'm pissed. Some of us have been talking this truth for years. Some of us have been putting it out there for years, the reality of American history, and meeting pushback from your demographic. Y'all are the ones voting in a fucking predator, voting in assholes like Abbott who want to call our real history CRT. Books by people that look like me, CRT. Principals who happen to look like me, CRT. Y'all don't want real black history. So maybe work on your clan cousins who are book banning and trying to block my right to vote. Enough of this performative bullshit. Because it's insidious, it's tiring, and it's a distraction from what we need to focus on. I guarantee you ain't going to see her pushing for people to vote. I guarantee you're not going to see her pushing for causes that would actually help black women. But she can point at a shirt that really legitimately highlights our pain and act like that's enough. The performative shit has to stop. Welcome to the chat, Terry Antico. Welcome to the chat, Respect. If I missed you again, G. Feldman, everybody, I'm just fired up about this because it's tiring and messaging is so important and we are seeing it. Tonight's main topic is a narrative of war and who deserves it, because you see so many people weighing in on what's going on in the Ukraine with such bigoted leans, and they swear that I'm not being racist when I say that this is happening to civilized people. Europe is not used to this conflict. Wait, what? The same Europe that's had 2 world wars, the same Europe that colonized both Asia, India, and Africa by force, the same Europe that got into constant conflicts with both Greece and Rome and the Middle East, the same Europe whose literal queen, who is still alive, fought in World War II. I know some of what Prince William allegedly said was taken out of context, so I will leave the Asian and Africa part out because that was sketchy and suspect, and it wasn't on record that he made mention of those continents. But for a sitting monarch who is directly related to the queen, like you're her grandson, I am sure you've seen pictures of your grandmother in her World War II gear because she served, unlike your lily-livered father, proudly in a war. To act like conflict never happened to your country like this? Do you forget that Germany bombed London? Do you forget air raids? What is this collective disconnect from facts? Why are people so fucking dumb? Like, you don't even have to be a history scholar to realize what was wrong with what Prince William said. But it ties into the vein that there are people out there that literally believe that it's not harmful to believe, but really believe that there are certain countries that are just more prone to conflict, more deserving of conflict, and like recent history. We've had issues in Sarajevo. We've had issues in the Middle East, obviously. Syria. We have this current conflict in the Ukraine. War is disgusting. I've had family that served in every major conflict. I take this shit seriously. I understand that there are sometimes necessary reasons for a country to get in the conflict, especially right now when we're weighing whether or not to protect the Ukraine borders. It is imperative that we make smart decisions. But war is not the answer. It should be the fucking end to all solutions. It should be the last resort, and it's often not. And for people in Europe to act like they should be so far removed because they're middle class, another word that is used for white skin. You're not fooling us. We who live in America have heard your jargon for the longest time. Those of us who have been axed out of living in good neighborhoods because they're affluent, told that schools are in good districts, meaning almost all white. We know the code speak, man. So when you, especially as a journalist overseas, say things like, this conflict is hitting civilized people, and it's not like in other non-developed nations. When you say non-developed, what trips me out about people who make the exactly G. Feldman colonizers make the asinine assertion that these nations are underdeveloped. Yes, like every country has both wealthy and poverty. But to act like the rest of the world isn't industrialized, there aren't actual brilliant cities in these nations, is so fucking stupid and racist that I'm getting annoyed. I know that people think when they look at India, they think of parts of like Mumbai and only see the poverty there as all of India, when India is one of the most richest countries, most technologically advanced countries, and going through their own shit with Modi that we can't even touch upon because we're still trying to clean up our own mess here in America. Then you got Africa, which is a whole ass continent. It's not even one country, but you know racists don't care. Africa is a continent of several different countries. And many of those countries are not only industrious because they partner with China to build up and build better and have full-on cities with their police and municipalities. But the fact that some people, when you mention Africa, still think people are like in the 1980s where we had feed the children and famine from Ethiopia, and that's the only thing that continent has going for it, is the problem with you racist fucking bigots. It's why so many of you thought, ancestrally speaking, that you could just go into these countries, raid them, pillage them for their resources, and then say, we were just doing it to teach the savages anyway. Y'all are fucked up and you're just still carrying that ancestral bullshitty attitude to say that some countries are just more prone to conflict. When you're literally watching a fucking Russian madman pull a Napoleon, who once again was white too, ancestrally speaking, who just thought, I should be king. We got rid of the monarchy, but I should be king. I'm a tough general. I'm going to just take over. White people are very aggressive, but they are really good with spinning that PR that we're the civilized ones. We don't cause conflict. We end it. We're the good guys. For those of us who actually know history, bother to study it, bother to look beyond the bullshit narratives that people try to push in our face as they wave a flag and then say awful things about fellow citizens. As we watch Europeans, who I love a lot of Europeans. I tell Axiom all the time, sometimes I want to go visit Europe. Sometimes I just want to move to New Zealand, which I know isn't technically in Europe, but is a European colony sometimes. The thing that annoys me about some Europeans' attitudes is, while you get that some of the shit in the past is wrong, you try to act far removed from your own bigotry and racism, and you can't. Because you still treat fellow human beings as if we're different. You still treat fellow human beings as if you can talk down to us or talk over us or talk through us. You still justify conflicts that happen to us mainly by people like you trying to be industrious. And then you act like it's our fault when we push back against your bullshit. And it's not right. Now, I blocked The Daily Show, so I definitely did not want to pull up his video, but he made some really good points. But my problem with The Daily Show is, like homegirl with the shirt, that's all performative too, because Trevor Noah has been problematic. His predecessor is whole ass problematic, talking about you should forgive Joe Rogan. Ignore that he called you apes. Ignore that he is fact phobic. He does not care about facts at all. He's factose intolerant, as I like to call it. You should give him a chance to explain his side. We've heard his side. It's bigoted. I don't like it. I don't want to give him weight to his side. And they have Jon Stewart, who I thought actually got it, actually understood, but just knew how to read the script very well. It's exhausting. It's exhausting trying to figure out who's actually caring and who's just trying to elevate their own platform. So I just don't bother anymore. I don't stand celebrities. Like I said, I've got about 4 that I willingly follow. Greg Proof, because I love who Lion is anyway. He is an amazing, funny, talented man. Roxana Arquette, who I always... People ding me on it. I don't care. She's the only Arquette that I think is worth a damn, and you can fight me on it. I can't stand Patty. Don't like the brother. I don't even remember his name right now off the top of my head. Roxana is the only one I can tolerate out of that whole family. Yvette Nicole Brown, who she shocked me. When she followed me, it was like the highlight. I love her. She's just so on point with making points about politics, social issues, entertainment. She's unapologetically black, and I love her. And unlike Aisha Taylor, who followed me when she was doing her AMC show, and I made that tweet about Trump on her unapologetic show, and then she unfollowed me after the show got canceled. I still get to tweet and enjoy Everett Nicole Brown, and she is a favorite of mine. And then Ron Perlman, who I've told anybody who listens, he is just a sweet man who made Kiddo feel like, wow. So I don't star chase a lot, but those 4 celebrities are people that I feel are not only down to earth, but just, they care. They don't put things out there just to go, look at me, look at me. So I just feel like in the terms of what's going on in this world, you got to be mindful of the shit you say. It's really easy for people to slip into bigoted thought processes because our media helps spin that. Our neighborhoods help spin that. How many people back in the day thought having the Syrian refugees come over here would be a bad thing? There might be terrorists. That was so fucking offensive to me. And I said it to a friend, former friend, actually. I don't want to call this person a friend anymore. We went to high school together. I thought she was a cool person. We're both moms. She's still in New York from the last I seen her. She might be in Connecticut. I don't know. She's one of them typical suburban white women. Because most of Staten Island, I hate to say, had that type. That I'm down with you during the 90s, I'm cool with everybody, but really harbored the hateful, harmful, bigoted type thing towards anybody black or brown. And she argued with me and pulled down the white women tears that it wasn't her fault for feeling that these refugees who are just fleeing a war-torn nation, babies and their mamas, they might be terrorists. And when I asked her, do you realize how fucked up that is? If they started dropping bombs on our country right now with our love of fucking guns, with our lack of respect for authority and you can't tell me what to do government attitude, you would be fucking in your feelings. If countries are like, no, we can't take any of those Americans. They're too violent. They don't respect our laws. They'll bring too many guns here. They will turn our country into shit. They are the weakest link. You would lose your shit if you had to go through what these nations did, uproot your life and safety because you can't go home. Because your home is a hollowed out shell. Where you went to go deliver children is now a crater because a madman decided to bomb your fucking home because he can't take no for an answer. That is a reality that some people are going through as we speak. And you could never, as you get on your fucking TikTok and expose a bigot for clicks and views, understand the weight of that. And this is why I say to Americans tonight, we have to check the shit that we have allowed as the narrative. Who deserves to be in conflict? No one. Who's savage? Everybody. Everybody has a savage side. Everybody has a civil side. And depending on the mood, it'll show you. But for white people, y'all had PR historically to try to wave away some of the fucked up things you have done in the name of progress, in the name of so-called manifest destiny. And then you tell the people who were victims of your colonization, of your aggression, of your wars, that we were the ones that did something bad. and that we somehow deserved it, and that no, yous are the civil ones now. Now that you've made money and gathered resources and created power structures that notoriously keep us out of the loop most of the time, yous can pat yourselves on the back and say, I am civil, and you are savages, and this is how it's supposed to be. And that's so unacceptable. And it's just exactly respect. It's such projection. And it doesn't need to be. But what makes it worse is that it's so ingrained that even people who are supposed to be guiding these stories, showing us the horrors, can't do it without a vein of making it seem like these are people that don't deserve it. But what about the Afghani people deserved it? Outside the leadership who, made very poor choices, abandoned their people at the worst moment, as our ex-doofus President 45 fucking left everybody high and dry. But to act like the Afghani people, I watched the video of this little boy who not only lost his family to shelling, but just had that dead shell shock, that 1,000-yard stare look, because he doesn't know if going outside will kill him. He's afraid of the noises. He's afraid of being outside in his own fucking neighborhood because of what ISIS was doing, what our troops were doing. As much as I want to cheer our troops for doing the best job they could in a zone that we shouldn't have even been in that long, people literally had kids that grew up without them because they were constantly being sent over there to try to make things right in something that was never right in the first fucking place. To see that baby's shell shock expression and not feel like we're doing this to them. Where's your heart? I am a literal fucking sociopath. I can disconnect my feelings from a lot of things. I can't look away when a child has suffered the realities of the cruelty of greedy ass men. These are men fighting these wars. These are men pushing these acts of aggression. These are men trying to claim areas that they don't need to be claiming, but this is how they feel power is. And it is a fucked up situation that only hurts the most innocent and vulnerable of our society. And nobody, no matter what they look like, no matter what their skin pigment is, no matter what region they reside in, deserves this conflict. And I am so sick of the clears, as my friend has come up with, and I love that respect, thank you, acting as if their lack of pigment makes them less prone to savagery. Because FYI, I live in America. I live in a land where school shootings are so fucking normalized that people try to downplay it. I had somebody in game that I respect. I sit in game chats during the day while I'm writing, try to say that the way the media portrays our school shootings, it seems like they're a lot more than they are. And I had to stop him. Because between the stopped school shootings that happened at my son's school when we were in North Carolina, fucking full-on active shooting lockdown because somebody was wandering the area with a fucking rifle, and then the actual school shooting that happened here in December, not so far away from where we live. School shootings happen. And for anybody who acts like it's not happening enough, there were way too much within the last 5 years. Mayor Stoneman Douglas, who put out those dummies like Kyle, but put out gems like Emma. Plenty of school shootings have happened in the U.S. It is so fucking internalized now that it's just like, well, we need to figure out what we're going to do about that, and then nothing fucking gets done. So excuse me, Mr. Rando, in a Twitch stream, if I have to correct you on something that I'm very passionate about, because I have a school-age child that I cannot send to brick and mortar school because I don't want him having the anxiety of having to deal with an active shooter drill while trying to survive America with black skin. My child has gone through enough traumas in this life. I'm not trying to add the educational system to that list of traumas. And I know there are a lot of parents that are out there feeling this right now. And I don't want to take from the school system, but it is exhausting when people act like this isn't a problem within our country. from people that definitely don't look like me. You think if a bunch of black students started shooting shit up, that we wouldn't have had effective gun control on the books, you're smoking some crack. Point blank, when the Black Panthers decided to exercise their Second Amendment rights and protest with arms, we seen quickly how California, Chicago, and other states started passing measures to make sure people that look like me could not arm themselves easier. So don't shit me on how we can't make these less of an issue. And don't bullshit me that it's not an issue, because we buried fucking 6 people, 4 of them actual children, from a school shooting here in Michigan. We're literally having a trial where a whole set of fucking, I think there was like 14 vigilantes who decided that they were going to group up on Facebook and cosplay militia and kidnap our governor and do horrible things to her, and had plans to blow up bridges and other stupid shit. We are in fucking siege by your demographic, and it's got to stop, because y'all are controlling the narrative of who deserves. But if the shoe is on the other foot, as I said earlier, and we had to flee because we were being invaded and you needed to go someplace safe, there is no country in this world that could not justifiably look an American in the face and say, no thank you. It is the reality. I know some of you have deluded yourself to believe, no, we're the heroes, we're the good guys. Ask people in Vietnam. Ask really old Japanese people. Ask anybody we have been in direct conflict with if you really think we're the good guys. Ask anybody what they think of America sometimes. And stuff that I hear from my overseas friends vary on, what are you on? No, that doesn't happen here too. I'm sorry. I have no excuse for that. To educating them on why we can't just make decisions because we are 50 different states trying to work together. But the consensus is gun violence is what we're known for. And jail. Gun violence in jail. We are the savages. We're the literal whole ass country, Australia, that was founded as a penalization colony, that can literally say, at least we're not as violent as America. That's a reality. And I think a lot of people don't want to look the ugly in the face and exactly respect, because white men especially, they get this power rush. They think it's powerful to be this aggressive. They think violence is the only answer. It's why on Tuesday, as I brought up, they long for a day where people read less, they were less educated, women knew their place, and they could solve things with violent aggression. That's why they cosplay in fucking Crusader armor, not being smart enough to realize the Crusades were not good to Christians. Y'all lost a lot of lives to that conflict. And the Muslim people you were fighting kicked your ass. Maybe if you read a bit more instead of dressing up in chainmail like an idiot and understood that armed conflict isn't really in your favor, you'd stop fucking doing this stupid shit. Because you were dressing up in the crusade for God, saying that you didn't want to do something that would have kept you and your family safe. I'm pretty sure God doesn't need idiots in his kingdom. So please don't apply. You're not welcome. It's like exhausting how ridiculous Americans especially frame it. But watching Europeans like really sniff their own ass and act like it smells like roses in this conflict, say things like the conflict is happening to civilized people or middle class people, which, like I said, we know what that is code speak for. Ukrainian people are just like everywhere else. You have your good, your bad, your in between. I've seen the stories of the African students who went to Ukraine because it was more affordable to study there, who some had to walk long distances and unshort terrain to get to the Polish border. Some were outright rejected. I did not share a lot of them because there was a lot of compromise mixed in with that. Before the rubles started to really dry up and become 1 cent, there were a lot of blackface, supposed ADOS types, a lot of pro-Russia types trying to shift the narrative of, see, look, black people, the Ukrainians aren't on your side either. And I could not trust that shit. And while I don't ascribe to all the Twitter performative stuff, because it always felt like it doesn't really matter if I put their flag in my name. I stand by the Ukraine by speaking up, by donating, by lending my platform to their voices without having to add unnecessary chatter. I don't amplify anything pro-Russia, and I call it out. One of the things that happened to me when I started writing on Medium is I get a lot of updates. One of the biggest updates I got this morning was somebody talking about how Putin's winning and we just won't admit it. And it's like, I'm tired of the doom being lucrative. We're going to have so many doom and gloomers that just want to exhaust all of our morale, but just like the Ukrainian people, just like that sunflower lady, I loved her. Fuck off. You're not going to demoralize us. You're not going to tell us to give up and declare Putin a winner. Ain't nobody ceding territory to that fuckwad. He's out there bombing innocent civilians. He is not the good guy in this situation. He is not the hero in this situation. And if he keeps overstepping, he's going to overstep those bounds. He's going to end up like every fucking despot throughout history who gets those small victories here and there, but ends up on the end of a bullet or rotting away in a jail cell for the rest of his miserable little dick existence. Y'all need to stop trying to make us see your doom as reality, because it's sickening. They do it here in American politics all the time. I'm constantly hearing about how, oh, everything's going to be bad. It's bad. Buy my book. Everything's bad. Bad, 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 bad. And it's like, okay, well, why don't we get together and do good things? Why don't we amplify the things that could change it? Oh, no, things are bad. Bad, bad, bad. Buy my book. Let me tell you how the sky is falling, how the U.S. is just like Russia. Buy my book. Sign Journalistic Lady 122, because they all have the same fucking playbook at this point. All these people utilizing their blogs to demoralize us instead of saying, you know what? Putin's an asshole. Point blank, period. That man has always rubbed me the wrong way. More than Gorbachev, because as much as Gorbachev bothered me, it was more of constantly hearing how Russia was an evil empire. But as I studied more of his reign in Russia, he was more benign than Reagan was with certain things. Now, he wasn't 100% good, typical Russian male, but he was more open to negotiation and letting go of things than history tries to portray. And if you actually study real history, you knew that. And then they replaced him with a former KGB agent who I feel like he really rose to power using compromise and threats and intimidation and outright assassination. He is a fucking bully and a thug who has gotten away with this shit for far too long. And we don't reward bullies and fucking thugs. You do like Tim did when a bully fucking messed with my baby. You take it to the source and you shut that shit down. I took my crazy to the source. Made sure the bully's mom knew. Touch my baby, I come for you. That shit stopped her bullying kid from bullying people because she didn't want me kicking her ass. And I'm pretty sure I threatened her life, which now that I've calmed down, a few years have passed, I could have fucking been arrested. I don't know what I was saying. I was angry. When you fuck with my kid, I'm telling you, I was at work, stressed out already because the job I took required me being yelled at by people for shit that wasn't my fault, which is never fun. I get a call from the school, which I always take because they only call for emergencies. I hear my kid crying in the background, which is always a trigger for any parent. And the teacher tries to convince me, you don't have to come up here. We just wanted to let you know that such and such pushed James. He fell. He's okay now. He's obviously not okay because I can hear him crying. And I lost my shit, but I was like, okay, I'm going to calm down. I picked him up. I made sure he was all right. I had him tell me everything. His friend Justin at the time also told me everything this kid had been doing over and over again to him and the other kids, and I snapped. And his school did a lot of gatherings. It was a literary night, and I just had a feeling she was going to be there. And I was so glad, because I decided this bully is not going to keep making my child's life miserable. And I'm old school New York. My dad worked with very unsavory people. I learned at an early age as a child who went on heists, who went into those old Italian tailors places while they did shakedowns, how intimidation fucking works. And I brought all of that I was trained to know as a child, which wasn't normal, I know, to that woman, and her kids stopped hitting other kids, because I walked around that neighborhood for a while after that too, to reinforce the point that I know where you live. I didn't care at that point. You fuck with my kid, you fuck with me. And what's going on with the Ukraine is the same fucking thing. We are watching a bully take on people he thinks are vulnerable. And he is going to come across that mama like me, who is going to stick her finger in his face and let it be known, I'm going to come after you. You want to keep fucking stepping on us? You want to keep bullying us? You want to keep murdering us? Because that is what he's doing. He is murdering innocent people for no fucking reason. You are going to feel this. And sanctions are nice. Sanctions hurt all these innocent people, though. People in Russia who really don't fucking know what's going on. Don't understand why they're doing it. Don't agree with it. Mothers who are fucking upset because their sons are being ripped away, sent over with half-assed supplies to another country to commit fucking genocide. For what? What do the Ukrainian people get out of annexation except misery? Especially for the Ukrainian people who identify as LGBT. That is a fucking death sentence for them. Why wouldn't they fight to stay away from that bullshit? Russia isn't fooling anybody, and the people who are pro-Russia, especially here in the U.S., they're fucking traitors. There's no other way to treat these people. Anybody who's talking pro-Putin talking points at this point is a fucking traitor to our country and any nation that wants to just live in peace and prosperity, wants to just move on and take care of its people. Don't want to cater to a fucking global bully who thinks I am just going to destroy democracy on every level and make my reign of tyranny the new norm. He tried to install a puppet here. He tried to install a goofy ass motherfucker who cost us hundreds of thousands of lives because he's greedy and selfish. He ruined so many lives with his policies in Russia. People were hung. People were assassinated for who they are. The LGBT in Russia still can't live in safety. And you have some of these Bernie bros talking about, well, you can live your life. You just got to do it their way. You mean quietly? Because you can literally die in a prison, if not worse? Fuck off. I am so tired of the cosplay socialists weighing in on serious issues. Y'all need to stay at the kiddie table and shut the fuck up. Just don't even talk anymore. Because when I see somebody with a fucking homosexual banner or a normal anime emoji for some reason, which as an anime lover pisses me off on so many visceral levels, weighing in on why somebody who's LGBT in Russia can just live, you can live your life in peace. You just can't be open about it. People should be able to live how they want to fucking live in their own country, especially when they're legal abiding citizens paying their dues. But what's fucked up about that legal abiding citizens is when you got a despot who fucking conflicted about his own sexuality, because you can't convince me anymore that these fucking bigots aren't just conflicted on their own sexual fluidity, and that's why they go so hard against the LGBT. When you didn't make it legal to call your own sexuality illegal, it's fucked up. And it's a reality that we need to push against because it's bullying. And we are seeing it in small scales here in the U.S. Little fucking Putin puppets like Rubio and asshole DeSantis in Florida. Cruz and Abbott in Texas. Fucking asshole Asa in Arkansas. All of these fucking red states that are Putin fucking pockets targeting LGBT kids. Kids! With their cruelty because they want to go after the most vulnerable because they have micro dick energy. They don't fucking want to go after tough people that can fight back. They go after kids because they feel like picking on the most vulnerable. They're fucking bullies. And we need these bullies to be out of work. We got work to do in 22, y'all. Seriously speaking, I don't want to hear any excuses for why midterm turnout isn't a blowout this year. While we don't follow up evicting that orange turd, we're evicting everybody who is still trying to stand for him. The ones who aren't getting arrested and convicted. And I want to fucking touch upon that too. Because that was a narrative that I continuously combated against. That I will not stop. Because there are way too many so-called Democrats still saying, well, what's going on with this January 6th? It's not going fast enough. Where's Merrick Garland? People aren't being convicted long enough. Why do you think this is a show? Why do you think that we are going to get like a Hunger Games style bullshit with this hearing and with these arrests? We are getting convictions. I'd seen this young man the other day. I don't follow him, but a lot of people were retweeting him that testified against his father. His father's going away. People are getting arrested and convicted. Yeah, some of them aren't getting as heavy sentences because they had good enough lawyers to prove that they were just stupid and in the wrong place at the wrong time, allegedly. Or some of them were smart enough to do a state deal to go, look, I know what I did was bad, but I can get you this person. That is how justice is. If they can let a person get a lighter sentence so that they can get the bigger fish that organize this shit, you, Mr. Device Keyboard Warrior, or Miss I know every political thing, need to shut the fuck up. Because it's exhausting. And y'all are the loudest, most wrongest group I've ever had the mispleasure of having to interact with on Twitter. You're very reactionary. You don't want to look the actual situation in the eye and understand that justice is hard right now. And while we could be filling it with justices who would have completely thrown the book at these people fairly, we have to fight to just get appointments that look like me in the Supreme Court without y'all moving the fucking goalposts or whether or not she qualifies because her skin's dark. Don't fucking at me about what Merrick Garland's doing. He's doing his job and he's not on fucking Twitter because that's not his job to be on Twitter. He's not an influencer. He's a fucking national AG. Like, I don't understand how grown people in this day and age are trying to make it where what Trump's administration did was in any way, shape, or form normal. It was exhausting being on social media under the Trump administration. Constant scandals, constant revolving doors of who was working, who was in the White House that didn't belong, like the Russians. What his children were doing to profit off of our nation while we were struggling. And this fucking pandemic that's still ongoing while idiots dress up in convoys and cosplay crusaders instead of doing the one fucking thing that'll keep them safe, that's clogging up our stressed out healthcare system. It's gotta stop. I am just so sick of the selfish entitlement of some of these people. The way these people act like they deserve. I demand Merrick Garland give more speeches. And then when he does, I didn't like the way he gave that speech. It felt condescending to me. I'm a nobody who has absolutely no ties to the DOJ or Department of Justice, but I didn't like the way he talked. The same people who will retweet Joy Reid in one breath when she goes, where's Merrick on the milk carton, which was offensive, Joy, and you should be ashamed of yourself, you dummy. But then get mad at her for calling out the fact that people are reporting this war as civilized and how racist it was. Because y'all want her to only parrot your voter depression talking points of how things aren't being done when it's clear to those of us paying attention. Now, a lot of stuff have been done since last year. and still ongoing being done. Some of you just want to justify why you're not going to vote the right way or at all, while your demographic is going to continue to allow the cruel assholes who only want us more ignorant and less away from progress as possible. And it's tiring. And we've got to do better. We've got to individually do better. We have got to know what's going on in our local and state representation. We have to support our allies home and abroad. We have to stand up to bullies that globally want to take over other places and make people's lives miserable because they think that's what power is. I've asked people all the time, what do you think power is? Because I remember when Young Tim was asked that, and I thought, you mean like magical powers? Because Young Tim used to think, and still thinks on a fantastical level. But for me, power is what you use to sustain yourself in this gift we call life. And some people utilize their individual power to make things better for people. Uplift, take care, nurture. Some people utilize their personal power to make others miserable because they derive a sick pleasure from that, and they think that's real power. And the problem with the latter is too many people thought, that cruelty seems legit. It makes me fearful and I don't want to push against it, so we should just normalize it instead. And it's because of that we have such imbalance, so much chaos. I never thought that I would see a time where we were living such dark moments in history, but that was a foolish thought because we've lived this. We've had so many men like Hitler in places like Sarajevo, Rwanda, the Middle East, all collectively had their own with Saddam Hussein. And what's going on with ISIS warriors who formed in retaliation to what Russia was doing in their neighboring areas, to make that make sense. Assholes like Kim Jong-un, and for a small time, our asshole Trump. When I see how history continues to repeat its darkest moments, it makes me sad. But to watch somebody like Putin, knowing that he might get a few victories here and there, he's going to cause a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, a lot of death to his people too, on top of the innocent Ukrainian people. He's displaced so many people who were just trying to better themselves with his antics. But like I said, history repeats every part of the dark moments. So while he might have these strong strategic victories here and there with bombing power plants and bases and bullshit, he's going to end up dead by either the hands of the people around him, his own hands, or rotting in a jail cell because he is committing human atrocities. And historically speaking, the rest of the world does not condone that bullshit. So I want y'all to rest tonight realizing that while what's going on abroad hurts, it sucks, it shouldn't be happening, karma does not play. It always comes and collects. And this fool has gone unchecked for too many years. He is pushing the boundaries because he has been allowed to be awful for far too long. But he has stepped over the lines of decency into the realms of full-on warlord. And he is not going to win this war. I can fucking tell you that. From just a historical knowledge standpoint, he is not going to win this war. He is going to go down in history as one of the worst leaders of his country because of it, along with our goofus 45. And history is not going to be kind to his ass because he has been a bully for far too long, and we have to stop entertaining his antics. I'm going to get ready to wrap this up, y'all. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. It has been an amazing week. I'm going to do my best to try to keep this content flowing. I appreciate all of you, especially in the chat. You keep it going. You keep everything flowing. You have such insightful comments, and I love you all. So thank you so much for showing up to the chat. I'm going to get ready to heat up dinner for Axiom and me, give kiddo his snack, relax a bit. I will probably see y'all on Twitter in a bit. Until then, I hope you take care of yourself, rest well. Don't let the doom criers dictate your mentality. We are going to fight. We are going to get to a better place together. I believe in that. But until then, y'all all take care and have a good night. I love y'all.